As we begin a new decade, the challenge of addressing global climate change remains as daunting today as it was a year ago, but the debate has changed shape. No longer hung up on questions like, does it exist or is it human-caused, we now face an even bigger dilemma. What should be our strategy for addressing it? At the Conference of Parties 15 in Copenhagen, Denmark, world leaders, environmentalists, and entrepreneurs convened a summit, sponsored by the United Nations, aimed at building an international agreement around climate change policy. Washington State was well represented by a delegation of political, business, and environmental leaders, and excitingly, our camera crew was invited to tag along. Here's a look at some of what we saw in Copenhagen. Our goal is to shed some light on some of the more productive aspects of the conference that you probably didn't see covered in the mainstream media, and focus on Washington's role. As you'll see, the world wants leadership on this issue right now, and they're looking in our direction.
We've got our struggles back home with the recession and so on. And so I asked myself, should I have come here? The absolute answer is unequivocally yes.
We wanted to talk to our colleagues around the world to see what their strategies are and what their concerns are. You don't have to depend on a Copenhagen agreement to do something about climate change.
It's been absolutely fantastic, amazing seeing so many people from so many different countries.
A big theme of this conference is the emergence of American participation and American engagement. We now have the prospect of that engagement, the beginning of that leadership starting to show.
More than perhaps any other state, Washington's elected officials played major roles at the national, state, and local levels, representing the Pacific Northwest as a region ready to lead America's transition to a clean energy economy.
Thank goodness we're here getting a bird's eye view of the competition and what it takes to really be at the forefront when it comes to these new jobs.
We are inside the Bella Center. This is the heart of the negotiations. President Obama is here, and yesterday Governor Gregoire spent the day here in negotiations and panel discussions. We caught up with her later at her hotel for a sit-down interview.
There were 3 governors here only, Governor Doyle out of Wisconsin, Governor Schwarzenegger out of California, and myself. So we really were the face of America. I've been a student here. I've listened to the science and the presentations that have been made.
A successful yet underreported aspect of the conference was the subnational negotiations, state and local leaders making practical commitments around energy conservation and clean technology initiatives.
I'm with a group of 60 premiers and of like stature around the world, 60 of us that already this week signed on to our own agreement. I come away from here believing this is exactly what Washington State should be doing. I'm proud of our state. I couldn't be more proud of our state here.
The subnationals' idea that meaningful change starts at the local level was echoed across town at Copenhagen City Hall, where mayors from around the world gathered for 4 days to exchange ideas about reducing emissions at the municipal level. The group was led by the president of the U.S. Council of Mayors, Seattle's own Greg Nichols.
We have reduced our corporate emissions as the city by 60% from 1990 levels, and we've done it without seriously interfering with what the public receives in terms of services.
It's a great place to go and talk to people who share this very unique job, and the odds are that around that table will be somebody who's dealing with exactly the problem that you're facing.
Considering that 75% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions come from major cities, local government will play a crucial role in implementing any climate change policy.
Just like Seattle helped change the conversation in America, cities have to be at the table if we're really going to come up with answers to this crisis.
And outside the door of City Hall, a vision of those cities. The Future City demonstration project was open to the public and showcased some of the brightest ideas that cities like Copenhagen are already implementing. Cities where people enjoy exceptionally high quality of life, but use 50% of the energy we do. Cities where 70% of the population walks, bikes, or takes public transportation to work. Cities that inspire kids to think about renewable energy in creative ways.
It's long overdue, but we're here. The American flag is now firmly planted in a leadership position on clean energy and global warming. You just can't allow the planet to slip over the abyss, and it could at a point where we can't predict right now. So I believe we will succeed.
Representative Jay Inslee, Washington State's Pied Piper of clean technology, traveled to Copenhagen with a bipartisan delegation of 21 members of Congress.
Americans get the economic potential of a clean energy economy in all parties. And I think that's something that unifies us over time and does not fluctuate. And if we seize this economic opportunity to build electric cars and solar panels and wind turbines here rather than just in China, we'll get some real meaningful action out of this country.
You know, the world has been crawling across a desert of official American indifference for 8 years, and that has held up a global climate treaty for, at least since Kyoto.
When there was a transition from the train to the plane, we led the world. When there was a transition from the typewriter to software and internet, we led the world. We're going to lead the world in this transition as well.
Obviously, you've heard the pessimistic reports that no real progress is being made at these negotiations. I've got to tell you though, as I look around this room at the politicians and the NGOs and the members of the press and the subnationals and concerned citizens, it really does feel that in this dialogue, this incredible worldwide communication, that progress is being made and more people are at the table than ever before.
There's a moral responsibility here for America to lead, as well as an immense economic opportunity.
Our takeaways from Copenhagen, and from our host, the Danish people, were realism, a little inspiration, and yes, optimism. Although the real work of mitigating climate change is just beginning, outside of the Bella Center there's a world full of motivated people, committed still to leading the way.
I still leave with this optimism that I came with, that no matter what's done here at that 30,000 foot level, on the ground, it's going to happen.